If you've ever felt like you've disappointed every single person that matters in your life and there's nothing you can do to overcome it or make it better, this video is for you. What's going on, guys? Like I said, no cameras, no studio, no lights, no anything. Literally recording this just off the cuff this morning as I'm going to church. So I wanted to make this video just to tell a story, and then hopefully you guys can get some value out of it. So a couple weeks ago, I remember I had to make a phone call. And I made a phone call to the two people that I most didn't want to make a phone call to in my entire life, which were my parents at the time. And I love my parents. It's not like I don't call my parents. I talk to my parents all the time. But I needed to call them because I had to tell them something that I didn't want to tell them more than anything else. And it was that I was a failure. And it was a really rough phone call because my parents have done everything in their entire lives to put me in a position to be a success, not a failure. They put up a good portion of my college education. They stayed married. They put a lot of good values and lessons inside of me that have guided me throughout my entire life. And I had to call them and tell them that I felt like I was failing. Like I felt like I was letting everybody down because a lot of things are going wrong in my business. A lot of things are going wrong in my personal life. And I felt like a train wreck because I felt like I hit the lottery, and I wasn't rich growing up, and I don't think a lot of people who watch this channel are rich growing up. I feel like a lot of people who watch this channel are mostly normal people from kind of normal ends of the income spectrum, kind of like my family was. But I was rich in a lot of ways that a lot of people, rich or poor or middle class, aren't in terms of all the things that I listed. I had parents who cared about me. I had really helpful family, and that they really invested a lot in me. They cared about me. They loved me. And I had to tell them, or I thought I was going to tell them, that I had squandered all of it and I wasted all of it. And I just came back to, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I was in tears. I was crying. I didn't know what to do or what to say or what to come to as a conclusion other than I let everyone down and I wasted all your guys' efforts and I wasted all of your guys' hard work. And I was really low. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. I was really in a pit at that point. And I remember I was in a pit, not because I felt bad for myself, because it was because I felt bad because I let my parents down and I let my family down. And I told everyone I was going to do all these things, and all these things were falling apart right in front of my face. And that's tough to swallow, especially as a man, where you're taught and propped up to be this invincible force, and you're told that you should act like this and do like this and talk like this and be like this. And I felt like none of those things. I felt like I was, again, like I was a failure, like I was an impotent baby, like I wasn't good at anything, like I totally flaked and bombed every single part of my life, and I had to own up to that. And coming forward to that, I remember I just was so terrified because I didn't think my parents were going to judge me explicitly, but I knew that they probably had thoughts either way, and those thoughts weren't going to be good, because why would they be good? Because I squandered all of their stuff, and I let all of my values go by the wayside, and I blew through all this money, and I talked all this nonsense about what I was going to do, how I was going to be, where I was going to kind of aim my life towards, and I fell flat on my face, and I bombed everything, and it was all for nothing. And I didn't get that. And I think that says a lot about a couple of things. One, it says a lot about my parents, because they didn't say that I was a failure. They didn't say that I let them down. They said that they were appreciative of me for trying, and that I was going to get back up and I was going to make things right, which I think that I am, by the way. I'm not, this isn't like a, I'm going to die post or whatever. But I was low, and instead of kind of beating me down like a lot of people, and unfortunately a lot of parents do, my parents instead built me back up. They said, you'll bounce back, you'll get back up, you'll do better next time. All the things that good parents say to their kids when they're in a low moment, which my parents did. And I'm very grateful for that. But also it says, I think, something about the redemptive arc of humankind, the redemptive arc of humanity generally. And that redemptive arc is inside all of us if we look towards it in the proper fashion. Because The human story, I think, is one of redemption. It's about falling down and getting back up. It's about trying a lot at something and failing a lot at something. And ultimately, you find some kind of peace in that, whether you ultimately succeed or fail on the goal or not. But the only thing, I think this is the biggest lesson I learned, the only thing that you learn throughout this entire process really is that the only thing you can possibly let down throughout this entire scenario is yourself if you let it defeat you, if you let yourself down throughout that process. And that's not a narcissistic thing, but it's coming to peace with the fact that the people that actually try and that actually want to make something of themselves and actually want to have a life that's worth living, you're going to let down a lot of people. And you're going to let down yourself because you're probably really hard on yourself, especially because you're watching this video right now. You're probably very hard on where you feel like you should be or where you feel like you want to be or how you feel like people should see you going into the future. And that's a good thing in a lot of ways. But also, if you let it own you constantly, if you let it haunt you, if you let it kind of be a part of your identity in many ways, it's not a good thing, because the only thing that you can let down really at the end of the day is if you drop your values for just an inconvenience, a bump in the road, an obstacle, an adversity that you face, something that you have to really own up to at the end of the day. And I think that letting people down is just a part of life. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you've let someone down, that you failed your parents, that you failed your girlfriend, your wife, your kids, whatever, you should use that, but you also shouldn't let it define your identity. You shouldn't let it be a part of who you are. You shouldn't let it define where you want to take your life and where your values are taking your life. Because if you're letting people down, that probably means you're trying at something worthwhile. You're probably trying to make yourself better. You're probably trying to make your family better. You're probably trying to enter into a state where you can feel like you are getting to a place that is going to be an improvement over where you are. Because the only people that don't let anybody down at all are the people that don't try anything worthwhile. The people that don't go for something, the people that don't try for something, the people that don't really have a dream and work towards it or have a calling on their life that God has placed on their heart and go for that thing. So you're going to let people down. You're going to let yourself down. You're going to fail. But at the end of the day, the only real failure, the only really letting yourself down is if you don't go for anything at all. But you'll never know if you don't try. You'll never know if you start letting people down in a way that at the end of the day will make you better. Thanks, guys.